What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the weekly Q&A video. We got a lot of great questions again this week, but before diving in, I need to give a quick thank you and shout out to the Star Wars Hub. They're a great Facebook community for Star Wars, and they've been doing a lot to help share and promote my content. So if you've never heard of them, there's a link in the description so you can go check them out. Starting with the first patron question, we have Wantsaman, who asks that if Obi-Wan is indeed to return to Star Wars Rebels, would I rather have Ewan McGregor or James Arnold Taylor provide the voice? I think it would be a shame to not have James Arnold Taylor back. I think it makes sense to keep the animated and the live action voices separate, and James Arnold Taylor did a wonderful job in the Clone Wars, so I think it would be a great opportunity to have him back, and I think he would do a really good mix between Clone Wars and New Hope Obi-Wan. I think he could make him sound a little older, a little wiser. I'd be really excited to see what he did with the character. Scott Collins asks what podcasts I listen to. I want to talk about four real quick. Two of them are Star Wars related, and I can't not talk about Star Wars Minute, because if you've been around this channel for a while, you know it used to be called Star Wars Minute, and Alex and Pete over there were very kind and gracious and basically shared the name with me for a while, and then I'm still getting away from the shorter video content. I'm trying to work towards longer, and so the minute aspect of it didn't really make sense for me anymore. But I can't emphasize how cool Alex and Pete at the podcast Star Wars Minute are, so check that out. Another one is Legends Library. These guys it's like a book club where they will say, here's the book we're going to discuss, and once a month they will go through that book, and they've had me on twice to talk about the second Darth Bane book and Darth Plagueis, and I think I'm going to be back on in November. There's discussions of that happening, so keep an eye out for that. I love Doug Loves Movies. That was kind of the podcast that got me into podcasts. And finally, a kind of newish one is Film Reroll. And what these guys do is they take film plots and then they play them as RPGs. So like they did Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the opening scene is the same, but depending on how the dice rolls go, like a 1 or a 20, the plots can diverge a lot, and it's really interesting, and I just love the idea behind it, so go give that a listen. Ryan O'Rourke wants me to do my dream casting for any potential live-action storytelling of Darth Bane. So he specifically asked for Darth Bane and Darth Santa. For Bane, I think Tom Hardy would kill it. He already did one Bane. He can do another one. But he's got the size. He's got the intimidation factor. I think he could really pull off a great Darth Bane. For Xana, I had to think a while, and I looked around, and I kind of like Jessica Chastain. She can pull off beautiful but also intense, and I think Xana is supposed to be a little younger, but it's totally forgivable. I think Jessica Chastain would do an excellent job of like a dark but still kind of vulnerable Sith Lord as she comes into her own, and I think she could play both sides of the spectrum very well, basically. Casey Miller brought up a really interesting theory regarding Maul and the use of the Nightsister magic coming up in Season 3 of Rebels, and in a recent video I did, I kind of thought that he might want to possess Kanan and Ezra and Sabine so they could all go attack Obi-Wan. But Casey is suggesting that maybe Obi-Wan's not his target, maybe it's Palpatine, and that's an alternative I had not thought about. I did mention that maybe Maul doesn't want to kill Obi-Wan, that it would be interesting if instead he wanted Obi-Wan's help for something, and that kind of aligns with that thought. So, and obviously Maul would want to seek revenge on the Sith. He already said that he feels that they've taken everything from him. And on Rebels Recon, they said Maul wants to destroy the Sith and start something new. So that very well could happen, and I think it's a really good thought, Casey. So not really a question there, but I wanted to discuss that and let your theory be known, because I think it's pretty cool. Daniel Charland asked how many significant leaps in technology there have been in the Star Wars galaxy. In canon, we don't really know a whole lot about history before the Phantom Menace. There's like little bits and pieces here and there, so I'm going to be talking in Legends. And really, the only major leaps are like civilizations becoming spacefaring and then hyperspace technology. That's kind of the only major things that we've seen, because I think why that came about is when KOTOR was made, the developers wanted the game to have like a Star Wars feel. They wanted spaceships and lightsabers and hyperspace travel, and so things look older, but they're basically the same. There's no really significant jumps in technology in 4,000 years. So I think that kind of caused a little... It just seems like the galaxy never progressed past hyperspace technology. And that would be really interesting to see if future films kind of advance technology in a way that we haven't seen. Maybe they'll think of something new that they can add to the Star Wars universe. I'd be interested to see that. But as far as history, not a ton of major leaps. It's just kind of those two that I can think of off the top of my head. Thank you to all the patrons that asked questions this week. As always, if you didn't see your question answered in this video, hop on over to Patreon and I left you a written answer. And if you're interested in becoming a patron yourself, just follow the link in the description. It's only $1 a month, and the combined donations really help the channel out. Alan Judge wants to know why Disney is currently ignoring the prequel era. I don't think that's totally fair to say, because we have gotten a book in Dark Disciple, we've gotten a comic in Obi-Wan and Anakin, but I do kind of get what you're saying. There's been far more content surrounding the Galactic Civil War and beyond than there has been around the first 3 episodes. Honestly, I think Disney is trying to distance themselves from the films that the fans didn't like as much. I hope that at some point that trend changes, because there were tons of great stories told in that era in Legends. We got Shatterpoint, we got Labyrinth of Evil. Like, there's plenty of things to do in there, and I hope they revisit it, but I think for now they're just trying to ease into it, because when they do pop up with little like Clone Wars Easter eggs, like there's a great moment in the Star Wars comic where Luke is in Gracchus the Hutt's like Jedi museum of sorts, and he turns on all the holocrons, and it's like all of these Clone Wars era Jedi. That's a cool scene, and I really hope that we get more like that. I want to see the original trilogy get tied in more with the Clone Wars and that kind of era. But again, I hope that's a trend that changes down the road. I do kind of agree with you that they haven't been completely ignoring it, but it's definitely on the back burner. Now Lopez asks, if I could pit any 2 Star Wars characters against each other in a lightsaber duel, who would I pick? I've got 2 that popped into my head right away. First is General Grievous versus Pong Krell. Let's just see like a 4-armed fight. That would be cool. But really the one I would choose over that is Kylo Ren versus Darth Kaitis. Let's get the 2 evil solo sons. Let's fight it out and see who's stronger. I think most people would probably argue that Darth Kaitis would win, but I mean, Kylo Ren's training isn't done yet, so who knows? We'll have to see how strong Kylo gets and then maybe pit them against each other, but I think that would be really cool. Just a good old canon versus Legends battle and see who comes out on top. Rex Vortex wants to know who I think the villain in Rebels Season 4 will be, and what the big kind of mid-season event for Season 3 will be. As for the villain, I kind of hope they keep recanonizing some Legends characters. I think it would be cool to see Isan Isard, some ISB get brought in. I mean, we've had Callus as an ISB agent, but maybe we could see her as the director at some point. That would be very cool. As for the mid-season break, my guess is all that business with Maul and the Nightsister magick. That looks like an event where multiple of our heroes are going to be in danger. We could get the return of the Darksaber. That seems like a big deal, so that's my guess for the mid-season break. Josh Bork wants to know what I'm most excited about regarding Rogue One. Hands down, it's Chirrut. I think that character looks awesome. Every line that Donnie Yen says in the trailers gets me pumped. Seeing him fight, I mean, he obviously has to be somewhat force sensitive, but seeing this blind man take down stormtroopers, I just know I'm going to like him. And his relationship with Baze sounds like it's going to be very interesting. So, yeah, Chirrut all the way. Finally, Tyler Farron wants to know if Ezra found his green lightsaber or if he built it himself. I feel like I read somewhere that he built it. I can't say for sure. I can't remember. But I do think he built it. Also, knowing what we now know about lightsaber crystals, that they are originally clear and that they take on their color once they are chosen by a Jedi, I think that's very telling. For example, when Luke built his lightsaber right before Return of the Jedi, it's green. And at that point, he's kind of struggling, not struggling, but he's touching some darkness there. So Ezra's kind of going through the same thing. So I assume that he chose a crystal and the crystal took on a green color because for the same reason. Ezra's kind of mixing it up with some dark side powers. So I think we're probably going to start to learn maybe new color meanings for the lightsabers down the line. But to answer your question, I do think that he built it, but I'm also not sure. So I guess it's kind of a non-answer. Sorry. That's all the time for questions I have this week. If you want to leave a question for me or my wife Molly for next week's video, just put it in the comments of this video, or follow the link to Patreon and we have a weekly comment thread there. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.